welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Sean. I'm back for another video. Welcome to another recap slash review of the HBO show Insecure. This is season 4, episode 8, Lowkey Happy. And we have a lot to discuss, a lot to unpack in this particular episode. I know that I'm not sure if the Lawrence Hive is happy about this or not, but this is the episode that I'm not sure that we thought we needed, but we definitely did. So we're going to talk about all that in just a minute. If you like, commentary and reviews like this particular one that I'm doing today, go ahead and subscribe. But if you also like fashion, dating advice, lifestyle content, become part of the little family that we have here. And if you're already a subscriber, hit that little bell. That way you'll be notified every single time I upload a video. Without any further ado, let's jump right on into this review slash recap for Insecure season 4, episode 8. So the show actually opens up with Lawrence. Lawrence is at the bar and he's clearly nervous. He's popping breath mints and missing his mouth completely. He is just awkward. He's a little bit nervous, and you can tell that this meeting with Issa is going to be something serious, or at least because he told her that he had something to tell her, and it just looks like it's really weighing on him. So we're not exactly sure what he's going to say, but then Issa comes in, and she looks beautiful. She is like a vision, a melanated goddess, and her beautiful entrance is immediately made awkward when she trips and falls right on her face. And Issa, in true awkward girl fashion, decides to lay there on that nasty floor instead of just accepting some help. So Lawrence walks over while Issa is still face down, and he asks her, do you need a minute? And she's like, yep. So he walks over, and when Issa is able to compose herself, she walks over to Lawrence, and he already had a drink ready for her, and she lets him know, I'm off that. Okay, I don't drink that anymore. I drink something else. And she tells him that she's changed. And that's kind of going to be the running theme throughout this entire episode. All of the time that Issa and Lawrence have had away from each other, they've both changed a lot. So I just wanted to mention it because it's the first time in this episode that I think the theme is sort of made prominent, that they've both changed a lot. So the chemistry between Issa and Lawrence is obvious. They have a long history together. And like I said in previous videos, it's not just about their romantic relationship, there's a friendship there. So they always just flow. They have a natural chemistry. But anyway, so, he asked Issa about the block party, and she told him, it was really good. It almost killed her, but, she did it, and she's finally proud of herself, which I'm really happy that Issa's finally to that point where she can accept, despite what happened with her and Molly, she should still be proud for how, she was able to make that happen. So Lawrence also mentions to Issa that he was in San Francisco and he was doing interviews. Issa lets her know that she's very proud of him and that they're both leveling up, and it's a good look, and it looks good on both of them. So Lawrence mentions to Issa that he saw Molly recently at the airport, and he said that she was acting really weird. And Issa was like, well, that makes sense because, we're not friends anymore. And Lawrence laughs initially because he's really in shock. And he's like, what, you're serious? And she's like, yes, we don't speak. And Lawrence is like, what happened there? And she was like, I'd really rather not talk about it. So Issa let him know that she heard about the breakup between him and Condola and that she's sorry about the breakup. So Lawrence is like, you know what? We don't even have to talk about that. But right as he's saying that, Lizzo starts playing and the crowd goes crazy. People are bumping Lawrence while he's trying to talk. There's this guy that just inserts himself into their conversation while he's trying to order a drink right in the middle of the two of them. And it's just not the best place to have any kind of conversation, much less the kind of conversation that Lawrence and Issa need to have. So they talk about it, they go outside, and then they say that, maybe we should go to another spot. And so Lawrence suggests a place that he and Issa have always wanted to try. And so Issa says she's never been there before, so he orders a lift. So while they're actually waiting on the lift, Issa asks Lawrence if he went back home for Christmas, and he says no. And I kind of took note there because, Lawrence spent Thanksgiving with Condola, and he was going to do a Friendsgiving, and he talked about before going to Condola's, he was thinking about going to his friend Mike's house, and it's just like, his parents do their own thing for Thanksgiving. They do their own thing for Christmas. And I think that's one of the things about Lawrence. I think he's looking for like a family. I think he's looking for what he thinks like Derek and Tiffany have. And for some reason, I don't think he's ever really saw his future and saw all those things with anybody but Issa. And that could be a reason why he's coming back to Issa. So the lift shows up and it's a nice black sedan, and Issa's impressed. She's like, look at you. And he's like, maybe I changed too. And that may be small, but that's what I talked about in the very beginning of this review. Issa and Lawrence couldn't be together the way that they were. I feel like they were stunting each other's growth. It's like the saying goes, nothing grows from comfort zones. As you notice, Issa and Lawrence didn't start thriving until they broke apart. Sometimes you need certain things to be the catalyst. So they're in the lift, and the woman assumes incorrectly that they're on the first date. And Issa kind of looks at Lawrence and Lawrence says, this is not our first date. So Lawrence tells the lift driver, oh no, this is not our first date. And she's like, oh, so you got that young black love. And Issa's like, we want a quiet ride. Y'all know Issa gets embarrassed and gets awkward real quick. So then the Lyft driver asks Issa and Lawrence if they're married, and Issa just quickly replies no. And then Lawrence was like, well, I did buy a ring. And I gasped. I was like, because the look on Issa's face, she was like, oh, what's all of this? And so she just looked, and the lady turns around and she was like, well, then do it now. What I like about Insecure is they're always very deliberate with the music that they choose. So while Issa and Lawrence were on their way to the restaurant, and when they get there, the lyrics to this song play Secrets Told and the Walls Coming Down. That was a precursor for the whole evening. Issa and Lawrence have never been more open, more honest, more genuine with their feelings. This was therapeutic for them. So when they get there, it's beautiful inside. And he tells Issa, I'm surprised you never made it here. And Issa gives this look that Lawrence immediately sees through. And he was like, have you been here before? And she's like, yeah, a couple of times. And he was like, so you were here on a date? And she was like, oh, no, it wasn't anything serious, nothing like that. And he was like, you don't got to give a disclaimer for me. And then he says, we're not going to walk on eggshells. We're not going to tiptoe around anything. And I think that's what changed the course of the evening, because all their conversations have always been very surface. How you doing? How you doing? I think it was really important that they knew that they had to dive deeper. If either of them wanted to move on, whether that's together or separately, this was the situation that they both needed some kind of like closure, resolution. They needed answers. They needed to have an honest talk. And I'm glad that they committed to that at the very beginning of the evening. So anyway, so they go over and Issa's like, please don't hold this lady up. Like, she already knew what she wanted to order. So Lawrence is still hemming and hawing. And the lady comes over and Issa just orders everything for the both of them. And Lawrence is like impressed. Again, it goes to show how well Issa knows him. As much as they think that they've changed, they haven't changed so much where they don't know each other anymore. It's like they changed in the same ways. So that makes them even more compatible. At least from the way this episode is going, I'll say that. So once the waitress takes the order, Issa is still pressuring Lawrence. She's probably asked him the third time in this evening, what is it that you want to talk to me about? And he finally reveals that he has been thinking a lot about, he says, us. And Issa's like, us? And then he says that he's been wondering if he just gives up on things too easily. So Issa tells him, I think it's pretty obvious that I wish that you hadn't given up on us. And so Lawrence says, I'm going to ask you another question. And, he asks her, why Daniel? And Issa says that she chose Daniel because he made her feel wanted when he didn't. And then Lawrence replies, were things that bad between us? And honestly, that is the reason why I have always had an issue with Lawrence, is because yes, Issa cheated. Issa was dead wrong for that. And if he chose not to get back with her and chose not to pursue a relationship with her, that's fine. But I was always upset that Lawrence never saw like how he contributed to that or where he went wrong in the relationship. And so I was glad that he finally was open to listen. So Issa told him that there were times that she would get off work and that she would just drive around because she didn't want to go home. And that kind of made Lawrence think, like, it was a lot worse than what he thought. I don't know how well he thought he was hiding from Issa how he was feeling or his insecurities, but he wasn't hiding them very well. So Issa tells him that even after all of that, she never wanted to be with Daniel. She wanted to be with Lawrence. And so Lawrence was like, we had recommitted ourselves and there had to have been a part of you that wanted to just blow everything up. And she was like, I kind of felt like if we did get back together that we would fall back into old patterns. Issa also told Lawrence that for an entire year, there was nothing that she could do to snap Lawrence out of whatever the funk was that he was in. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to have sex. He didn't want to go out. And she really was just frustrated because there was nothing that she could do to get through to him. And so Lawrence says, I was really just seeing you get up every day with purpose, having a place to go, just made him feel bad because he had no place to go and nothing to do. And he even thought about wanting to move back home, but he stayed to be with her. And these were all things that they had never said to each other. And this was the openness that their relationship lacked. If they had talked like this in the beginning, I think they would have stayed together. They would have never broken up. When a man is a provider, when he's someone who loves and takes pride in being able to take care of his woman and provide for his woman and make sure that she has everything that she needs and what that she wants, when he can't do that, he feels emasculated. A lot of men go through what Lawrence went through when they can't be the kind of man that they want to be or the kind of man they feel their woman deserves. A man not having a job hits differently than a woman not having one. And then Lawrence admits that when everything happened with Issa, it was just easier to blame her because at least then he didn't have to deal with like his feelings of insecurity and feeling inadequate and all of that and wanting to possibly move back home with his parents and all of that. So Issa was like, why didn't you tell me any of this? And he said, because he couldn't. And they were like, we really weren't talking back then. And it's the same communication issues, like communication, whether it's a platonic relationship like Issa and Molly or romantic relationship like Lawrence and Issa. Communication is everything. It is not on the other person to read your mind, and you should never expect someone to. It's different if you tell someone something and they don't do it or they don't care or they don't change. But if you never tell them, you can't expect them to know. That's not fair to them. And they never expressed any of this to each other. So it wasn't fair to just assume the other person knew what you needed. All this time, Lawrence thought Issa cheating with Daniel killed the relationship. But the truth is, it was already dying. Now, Daniel might have been the death blow, okay? But it was already on its way out. It was an inevitability that the relationship was not going to make it. That was with or without Daniel, because it was only but so long they could continue to live like that where neither of them were happy. So it's Issa's turn to ask a question, and she asked Lawrence, did he really buy a ring? And he says yes. And Issa is a little bit shocked and taken aback by that. And he's like, basically, why are you shocked? We looked at rings together. And she was just like, I still didn't think basically like that would happen. And, so she starts looking sad, and Lawrence was like, so you're realizing that you messed up. So basically Issa admits that, she was struggling then, but she's got it together now. And she tells Lawrence, you've been missing out. And he was like, really? But then Issa gets up to use the restroom. And then when she's gone, Lawrence's phone vibrates and look down and girl, guess who it is? Condolences. So the text message that she sent says, like, I know we said Tuesday, but is there any chance we could do tonight? And so Lawrence actually texted her back, and he was like, basically, yeah, I'm out right now, but maybe a little bit later. And I rolled my eyes so hard. I was like, I know he ain't still with Condola and still sitting here with Issa. I'm like, why are we here? What is the reason? Okay. So after Lawrence and Issa have had their sophisticated meal with appetizers and good drink, you hear the sound of a man saying something along the lines of "brat, brat." A grown man making machine gun noises off into the distance. He emerges out of the darkness, out of the shadows, if you will, and it is none other than TSA Bay and his new girl Mazda, not Mercedes. Her mama named her Mazda. And so Issa is immediately embarrassed because she's been trying to be sophisticated and showing Lawrence that she has changed. And Lawrence is like, who is this and where you know him from? And this brother says, we used to get it in. Just no tact, no couth, no nothing, okay? So he tells Issa and Lawrence about a friend of his having an art show down the street, and then he like walks off with Mazda. He says bye, have a good time. And then so Issa turns to Lawrence and she's like, that sounds really fun, a nice art show and everything. And so Lawrence is like, yeah, it does sound fun. He's like, oh well, yeah, I gotta go. Kisses her on the cheek and scurries off into the night. And Issa just standing there, and I'm looking like, wow, wow. And then you hear, bruh, bruh. And it's Lawrence. Lawrence is clowning her. What I like about Lawrence and Issa's relationship is they have fun at each other's expense, but you can only do that when you trust the other person is, cares for you and wouldn't intentionally hurt you. That's why Issa and Molly can't joke like this, because they don't really know the other person's intentions. So in this next scene, Lawrence and Issa are at the art walk. And one thing that I love about Insecure, one of the many things, I love that it's always so rich with culture. The music, the visuals. I like how they light black people, which I know sounds like a crazy thing, but I like how all the skin tones always pop. Everything is so intentional about the show. So when Issa and Lawrence are walking through this exhibit that looks like they're in the clouds, I'm like, okay, I see what y'all did there. The symbolism. It's like they're in heaven. When they're together, it's like walking in the clouds. I see it. I hope y'all see what I'm talking about. But anyway, so they're walking and they're talking and they're doing what they always do. They have that rapport. Their sense of humor is almost identical. And they're at the point in their relationship where they finish each other's sentences. And so that's what they're doing. They're just like vibing. And they're just talking and having a really good time. This feels like a nice date. And I feel like it may have started off like, hey, I need to talk to you about something, Issa. Let's just get together and grab drinks. But they haven't spent this much one-on-one time together in so long that I think they forgot how good it feels to just be together. And as somebody who is, in a relationship, happily married, actually just celebrated my 15-year wedding anniversary on May 28th, just throwing that out there. But anyway, just being around somebody that you vibe with, that gets you, that understands you, that's just, that you can just be silly with. It's a good feeling. And I understand why neither of them was in a rush to let this night end any sooner than it had to. So while they're looking at art, Issa comes across this picture, which is this abstract piece of art, and it's supposed to be like, I think happiness is what the picture was called. And so Issa and Lawrence are talking about happiness, and Issa says, I think that happiness is a choice. And Lawrence is like, what do you mean by that? And she was like, I think I've always expected other things to make me happy, but I realized that I have to create my own happiness. Like what I'm doing now is something that I'm doing what it takes to make me happy. And then Lawrence says, I like you like this. And I completely understood what Lawrence meant by that. And I completely agree. I feel like there is nothing sexier than somebody that knows exactly what they want. I mean, I know that, life is a journey. It's about getting there. It's about getting to the point where you can kind of realize your dreams. But somebody with vision, it's inspiring to be around somebody that's going after something. And I think Lawrence the same way. Like when Lawrence was talking to Issa about his job, he was saying that, he thinks he likes being on a team. Because Issa was like, what about your app? And what about working for yourself and all that? But he's like, I like being a part of a team. He found himself while he wasn't with Issa. And Issa found herself while she wasn't with him. And that's like one of the ways that they changed that was the same. I think one of the biggest problems with Lawrence and Issa from the past is that they needed purpose. And I think one thing that the show depicts that is perfect and parallels real life is a lot of people are looking for their purpose in someone else. A relationship is not going to make you happy if you don't know why you're here. If you don't know what you're doing in life, if you don't know why you were created, like if you have no vision, no goals, another person's not going to fill that void. If you can't be happy by yourself, another person's not going to do it. Then he asks Issa basically what's next. And Issa's like, ever since the block party, I've been trying to figure out how I can get paid. And she's like, I'm just going to try to figure out how I can create smaller events where it's basically profitable. And Lawrence is like, cool. And he's like, he's very excited about it. He's like, you got it. One of the reasons why I liked Nathan so much is that Nathan was so encouraging for Issa's dream. Lawrence never had anything to encourage Issa about. Issa had a job that she didn't like. Issa didn't like We Got Y'all, okay? Issa hated her job, so there was nothing to encourage. Issa had no spark when it came to We Got Y'all. I think Lawrence saw the spark in Issa, and much like Nathan, he encouraged it. So Lawrence and Issa are looking at some art and they're, making jokes. One art piece that they see reminds them of Chad. Another one reminds them of Kelly. And there's this third piece that they didn't even show us, the audience, that Lawrence and Issa aren't sure about. And the next thing we know, Lawrence has bought a piece of art. I don't know when they're going to reveal that to us, if that's going to make more sense once we see that. But I think it's kind of like a breadcrumb. Issa orders the Uber and they say they're going to split it. And then they realize that they're living really close to each other. And Issa's like, I can't believe that you have a bachelor pad not far from where I live. And he was like, I can't believe that you think I have a bachelor pad. Like, I'm a grown man. I buy art now. And so they laugh about it. They both have been trying to tell each other throughout the evening how much they've changed, how much they've grown, and kind of trying to impress each other. And it's cute. I'm not gonna lie, it's cute. So the Lyft, I said Uber. Did I say Uber earlier? If I did, forgive me. Anyway, so the Lyft driver shows up and they're getting ready to go into Lawrence's house. And Issa's like, where are you going to put it? You going to put it above the futon or above the air mattress? She's like making jokes. And so he tells the Lyft driver, give her 5 minutes because he wants to like take Issa in really quickly to show her his place. So he goes in. Issa's impressed. He's got real furniture. She said he's got Glade plugins. It's looking really nice. He's bragging that he has a maid that comes in every 2 weeks and all of that. And he's just impressing Issa. The whole night, he's been trying to impress her. And it's working, okay? There's nothing like a man who has his life together. I'm sorry, but we all deserve a man who's leveled up. We all deserve a man who has made some effort to get his life together before we got there. I know that's not always the case. You may have met him in college. He may be in between jobs. There may be so many reasons why that isn't the case. However, I like when you see effort from a man. I think effort is always sexy. Am I right, ladies? So like I said, Issa goes in and she's impressed, but Lawrence is like comfortable and he's sitting on the couch, and Issa looks at the couch. This is the couch. This is the quote unquote couch from the Dunes. This is the couch that they bought together that Lawrence kind of got in the breakup or in the divorce. Lawrence kept the couch and Issa looks at it and she's like, you found a good spot for it. And I think Lawrence kept the couch because I think there may have been some hope for him in Issa, maybe deep down, maybe consciously or subconsciously, to hold on to something that has so many memories with your ex. I think you have to be real with yourself and realize that there's a reason why you're holding on to it. So Issa excuses herself and she goes off to Lawrence's bathroom. And while she's gone, Lawrence takes this opportunity to call Condola. So he steps outside and calls Condola and he lets her know, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to, come over or to speak with you tonight. I really am sorry about that. So apparently Condola, whatever she has to talk about is really important, or I don't know, because she being mad pushy, okay? Because she's like, can you still come over? She's been calling this brother and texting him all night, and so he's like, okay, I'm just finishing up here, but when I'm done, I'll try to come over. I'm not sure how much of that Issa heard, but when he walked in, Issa was standing there, and he apologizes profusely. He's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't want it to be awkward. I apologize. I hope it doesn't look bad, because here you are trying to set up a meeting with somebody else after we done had this good time, okay? So Issa asked him, so you're trying to make things work with Condola? And he was like, oh no, I don't know. We're just trying to talk. She wants me to come over and she wants me to talk to her. So then Issa says, the Lyft driver is probably upset. I need to go ahead and just go. So she walks over to the door and she freezes. And she just stops dead in her tracks. And she turns around and she tells Lawrence, what if I don't want to go? And Lawrence is kind of like looking a little stunned. And she tells Lawrence that she's not ready for the night to end yet. And Lawrence says, tonight made me happy. And Issa said, to Lawrence, you make me happy. And Issa gives him a kiss and it kind of goes from there. I was actually a little surprised because Issa is normally talking back and forth to her mirror self. When she's with Lawrence, she's not in her own head. And I think that's what the mirror self is supposed to represent, how much she has to overthink things with so many other people, but she doesn't have to do that with Lawrence. So it is the next day and she woke up this morning with a smile on her face, feeling very happy. And so is Lawrence. They woke up, they're in a great mood. And, Issa is like, so San Francisco? And Lawrence is like, maybe. And he asks her, would she miss him? And Issa jokes, not even a little bit. Lawrence offers to walk her home. And, she's like, no, I'll walk. And hubby calls this the walk of shame. It was not a true walk of shame. A walk of shame doesn't look this good. Her her outfit matched. It was perfectly put together. The little sweatshirt with the jeans and the boots, and the burgundy from the boots also in the sweatshirt. Like it, no, a walk of shame is like high heels and an oversized jacket. It looks a mess. Issa did not look a mess. That is not a walk of shame. Nobody knows that walk is shameful except for Issa. So Issa takes a calming and relaxing, soothing walk home. She feels very good. She's smiling. And just as the episode is titled, she is low-key happy. Now, from the previews for next week, it shows Molly. So Molly and Issa finally talk. I am so tight because it looks like from the preview that Issa called Molly's self-righteous self, and Molly still doesn't seem any bit remorseful. I don't know if the therapy sessions haven't started yet. I don't know what it is, but what I do know is we only have 2 episodes left of this season, and whatever the beef is between Molly and Issa, they better grill it up and eat it, because what I don't want is another season of the 2 of them going back and forth. So either they better mend this friendship or break it up, because this is exhausting and it is upsetting to me and my homegirls. I am tired of Issa and Molly, and I refuse to do another season of the 2 of them at each other's throats. All right, so that is it for my recap slash review of Insecure Season 4, Episode 8, Low-Key Happy. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. As always, I have a couple of questions for you guys. What exactly do you think is going on with Condola? I know when she kept calling, I looked at my husband and I said, Condola better not be pregnant. Because that's my theory. That is my bootleg theory. I don't know. What do y'all think Condola keeps calling him for? Is just to rekindle the relationship? Is Lawrence gonna get back with her? What exactly is going on with Nathan? I feel like we can smell a love triangle going on, but I don't think that Nathan and Issa's relationship is to that point because they didn't show us much. Yes, last week in Molly's episode when she and Andrew were in Mexico, Issa was with Nathan, but it could have just been on a friend level. They didn't show us anything. They haven't been on a date. They haven't had a kiss. They haven't done anything besides talk to each other as friends. So I'm not sure, unless the next episode is going to show us, what happened when they were in Mexico. Is there more to it? I don't know. Are Lawrence and Issa in a place now where it can work? Or do you think that this is just a phase? There's no hard feelings. Lawrence isn't upset anymore. Issa isn't upset anymore. They're not blaming each other. They accepted responsibility. Like whatever they were needed from the relationship, I feel like they've got it. Do you think they both could do better? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. But anyway, I love you guys. I'll see you all in the next video. If you like commentary, if you like reviews like this one, be sure to subscribe and be sure to turn on those post notifications. That way you'll never miss a video from your girl. I will post my last recap video on the screen so you guys can check that out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Till next time, later divas and dudes. Deuces, honey.